Recording. Okay, hopefully it's coming through okay. So I'm doing it upstairs. I got a little bit different of a venue. Today's going to be Tech Chat number 35. I'm Dan, your host. And this is going to be a different Tech Chat. I'm doing a voice note at the beginning of this. Um, and in my book, Rise from Darkness, I talk about, a wide variety of all these eclectic experiences I've had from being an order follower, both in and out of medical facilities, federal medical facilities, being an order follower on a state level, being in the military, all these things. I talk about some of the research I've done. I talk about natural law in this book and who I learned a lot of it from. I give links, I give resources, I cite sources. You're supposed to. Um, but in this book, I talked about, a porn problem that I had. And my past podcasts, I've actually done and talked about it. But I feel like when I first put it out there, the way that I put it out there, it wasn't real well received. So I didn't want to put it out there in that way. It's almost like people didn't, want to look at it or whatever. So I kind of just done drive-bys on it. Well, this podcast number 35 on June 22nd, 2022, it sure is a lot of twos. I decided I'm going to make some notes and I'm going to put together a podcast that really addresses it. And what I know is beyond a questionable shadow of a doubt, evidence of a higher power than man. Yes, I experienced a very supernatural phenomenon. And I will sit there and tell anybody. And I know what I experienced and know what I've seen. And what I've seen today was the final thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting together a presentation for later on. And I'll either do it in a very well put together podcast, or I'm going to do it in a live presentation, or maybe a combination of both. See, as an ex-order follower, I know how to do PowerPoints. I've done 20-page, 25-page lesson plans on Word documents, 40, 45 slide PowerPoint presentations that correspond with it exactly. I've practiced what I was going to say. I've been a professional in that manner. But what I find for me personally is when I talk just free flow, it is usually I am the most authentic when I just free flow. And I've got all kinds of different personalities. We all got them. I'll have different uh, personalities depending on what I'm talking about or what time I'm talking about it or, anything. We're all different. But so I realized that if you're inspired to say something, you have to make notes right then and there, or you need to make voice notes. So I started making voice notes. I started talking. And this is the second time I've done this. And so this is only going to be out of 35 podcasts. This is only the second one that's going to be mostly voice only. And it started off as notes. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit choppy here and there. And I also did it in my kitchen downstairs with nothing in it but a table and a couple of chairs. So there's a little bit of an echo, which I don't think will be the problem up here where I'm at. And with a headset on, I didn't have that. I did it literally. I was taking voice notes off of a recorder, and then I put it onto the computer. So, and I listened to part of it, made sure it was the entire thing. And why not? Why not put it out there as authentically as I can? These are actually my notes. What I'm going to put together in this PowerPoint that I want to put together in a lesson plan and something that I can put out there, and I'm going to title it "The Sacred Gift of Shame," because shame is not always a bad thing. There is a such thing as healthy shame. Healthy shame teaches us what not to do. Okay. Unhealthy shame teaches us about the internalized toxic weaponization of shame and why you shouldn't let that be weaponized. So shame in itself has got a dark and light aspect to it, just like everything else. When I start talking about the porn issue in this, you'll see I get into uh, what I feel is it's partial just distraction, and there's another part of it that's specifically very emasculating to men, which is, I think, part of the agenda. It's another spoke in the wheel of evil to promote separation, to promote, um, non-communication. I'm not talking just about heterosexuals meeting and having a one-night stand, and oh, God forbid, they might accidentally have a baby in a depopulation or population, you know, uh, control agenda. We want that, but it's even for homosexuals. They don't want men and men getting together and talking, or women and women getting together and talking. They don't want real human connection. They want to keep us separated, man. That's part of this whole thing. They want to keep us stuck in the metaverse. So I get into that in this little 31-minute whatever, and I talk, a little bit more in depth. But I just wanted to come up here and make a voice note before I get going on other things today. And I moved into a house so I could concentrate on just this work. Yeah, I got kids. Yeah, I got a wife. Yeah, I got issues. I got problems just like everybody else. Yeah, I've got certain things I'm embarrassed by. I got whatever. The whole point is this. None of those things matter in the face of the evil that we're facing right now. They just don't. Okay. I talk in this podcast, I talk in this, audio thing about good guys and bad guys. And I define what a good guy and a bad guy is. Okay. I define what a good guy is at the end, what a bad guy is at the end. I don't care how you got there. How you got there is irrelevant. That's low-hanging fruit. That's chasing your ego. There'll be time enough for that after the enemy that's at the gate is defeated. If you're a good guy, you believe in a non-aggression principle. You believe in freedom. You believe in love. You believe in not using coercion or the weaponization or threat of violence against anybody. If you believe in those things, I don't care what you label yourself as. You're one of the good guys. If you're one of those few people who believe in slavery and care only about yourself, you're one of the bad guys. And then there's the mind control masses in between. I get more in depth in this. I don't want to keep talking now. I just want to make a quick voice. Now, I got this up here for a reason, okay? This is about balance, man. This is about integrating your darkness with your light. It isn't about bearing the darkness and keeping it buried. It's about becoming friends with your darkness and understanding it, okay? And even to a certain degree, celebrating it, because you wouldn't know what light is if you didn't have a little bit of darkness, period. I also talk about over here, this tiger is very near and dear to me, man, because cats are one of my spirit animals. And this is definitely the shadow aspect of my spirit side, battling that, battling that beast within, battling that monster, bringing it under control, taming it. It'd be like the strength card with the lion in the tarot deck, okay? So I wanted to have some type of something for you to look at. One of the things that I talk about in this, which is going to be very important, is one of the types of porn, one of the kinks that I got into was female dominance. And I'll be honest, I still think it's fucking hot. Excuse my language, ladies. I'm like Shrek, okay? I'm like, Shrek, where we got layers. We're like onions, we got layers. I could be dominant or submissive for the right chick, right? So, but there is the shadow side of it is what we're seeing here. And this is one of the things I think that you're seeing in porn. It's not healing. It's emasculating. There's a war on testosterone that I talk about in this audio. I could just do the whole thing right now, but I'm not going to. I don't know how long it's been. But this isn't healthy. This isn't healthy. Okay. And I'm going to be talking about how you have to have and understand what objective morality is international. It doesn't matter what you call it, but anything else is this kind of morality. It's morality written in ice. As soon as it gets put under heat, it's going to melt. All right. I want my morality written in fucking stone, not on ice. I'll take my drinks on ice, not my morality. Okay. And nothing that I was doing was immoral. A little embarrassing, I guess. I'm this big macho guy who gets into, who's got some kinks. Who gives a fuck? Like, literally, who gives a fuck? You can't be embarrassed about nothing in the face of the evil of fucking slavery. Yeah, that's the worst embarrassment that I could ever have in my entire life, is not to stand up to slavery. Period. I had to, honestly, I had to come back to myself. And I had to actually remember who the fuck I was. And that's what we all need to do to rise from this darkness together, is remember who the fuck we are, not worry at how we got to this certain conclusion. That's ego, okay? We're there. We need to go ahead and face the larger enemy at the gates. And I'm saying get together so we can read an auric field, so we can have that live interaction in person and not be stuck in the metaverse. Not because I want to have a big party. Parties are cool, but that's not the reason why. We're all on the same side. It doesn't matter how we got to that good guy. That doesn't matter how we got there. We're all on the same side. We all want freedom to sexually do what you want if you're not bringing harm to any other sentient being, if it's consensual, to live how you want, to put whatever you want in your body. It could be out of balance. Out of balance will hurt you. That's what this is about. It's all about balance. Balance is key. Okay? Balance is key here. Understand this. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy my little 30-minute audio rant. I'm kind of all over the place in it, but I'm like as honest and authentic as I can possibly be. And what I've got in the future coming up is going to be slides, is going to be pictures, is going to be things that without a shadow of a question of a doubt is going to paint a picture to you that there's a very real higher power than man, supernatural, more powerful than man, that I've experienced as a result of all this. I put it in the book, but my next book is going to go way more in depth with way more evidence. The picture will be painted. You will believe. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. If I wait till I understand exactly what it is, I won't tell what I know now. I'm still in the process of trying to figure it out. Is it God with a capital G? Is it some type of extraterrestrial being that, is interdimensional or something? I don't know. I'm researching still. But with that said, anyways, stay healthy. And until TAC Chat number 36, this is TAC Chat number 35. I hope you guys enjoy the recording. Thank you for listening. Peace out. So this is just going to be a note. I don't know how much I'm going to actually say, but I keep having all these thoughts that I need to talk about in my next podcast. And what I want to say about this next podcast is I 100% know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there is a supernatural force greater than man that is on our side and wants to see connection, human connection, and wants to see us win. And I have to tell my story in such a way where there might be some embarrassing things I once thought were embarrassing that I'm going to have to divulge. Well, it's worth it because I've kept the signs. I've got the signs. I've got evidence. I've got pictures. I've got the slides. I've got things that are needed to really paint a picture that 100% something wants the good guys to win here. 100%. That's the picture I'm going to paint during this next podcast. That's the picture I'm going to paint in my presentation, probably a little bit more in depth than I would at a podcast. So how do I go about painting that picture? Well, first off, you go about painting it through pure honesty. Pure honesty without fear. To paint a picture of who the good guys and bad guys are, first we have to define who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. And I'm not going to speak, you can drop $5 words. People who are holistically intelligent get offended by that because they know it's condescending and they will call you on it. People who are college educated, their ego gets activated in some way and they want to use a bigger word. I'm not knocking college education, but let's take a look at Washington, D.C., folks. It's filled with fucking college-educated people. How's that working out for us so far? We need a little bit more of real holistic intelligence. You're going to see me go back and forth in my demeanor today. You're going to see me go back and forth in my pace, in my tone. You're going to see all this come out of me today. And believe me, this is me. This isn't me trying to imitate anybody. This is really me. So if I end up sounding like anybody else, I don't give a fuck, man. I really don't. So here's the thing. We have to define the good guys and the bad guys. So the good guys are those of us who like and love and actually adore our freedom. We are the good guys. Objectively, we are the good guys. It doesn't matter how you arrive at that end conclusion. I hear people talking about we agree on the end conclusion and everything from that point forward. We're debating on
how we each arrived at that conclusion. Okay, that's an ego-based thing going on right now that does not need to be happening now. I appreciate the mentalness of it, but it doesn't have to happen right now at this moment. Let's win first, then we can do that. There's a larger enemy at the gate to even be wasting energy on how we arrived at the same fucking conclusion. Okay? That conclusion is that people who love freedom are the good guys. People who want slavery are the bad guys. Okay? Objectively. Then there's all these other people, because it's only a few people who really want slavery, and everyone else in between who's going along with it are mind controlled, which is who we're trying to reach and wake up, right? So that's the good guys, that's the bad guys. In the simplest terms I can possibly fucking put it, that's the good guys, that's the bad guys. Moving on from there. One of the things I'm going to talk about is the depopulation agenda, which has been going on with, viruses. I'll leave it at that. And then you got a bunch of adverse effects from, the jabs. And the wars. I mean, it's real plain to see, even throughout human history, and accordingly, and what's happening today, it is a puzzle. Remember that word puzzle. It will come into all this later on, okay, as I lay a puzzle out, which is part of my evidence and proof that there's a higher being other than man, or a higher force other than man. And I'm not being woo-woo, I'm not being anything. I've got the science so fucking strong that I'm willing to sit there and tell anybody what I've seen and what I know because of these signs. And I'm going to paint that picture. You can believe that. Okay? My next book's going to be crazy off the hook. This book, Rise from Darkness, Who Are They? Heavily influenced by one other researcher in particular, whose body of work is huge. And all the researchers that he researched from their bodies of work are also huge, and he gives all that information in one place. Makes it simple, okay? So to say that that's the only place I've ever, got stuff from is not, it just isn't the case. But man, I've gotten a lot. And anyway, so I'm going to be putting all that together. And what comes into play next, and that's all part of history. I want to go back. History's constantly repeat itself with population calls. French Revolution, beheadings, the Mayans, human sacrifices, all these, it's just all repeated history of a satanic agenda. I'm not going to get into the beings who I believe could be involved in this that are also greater than man. I don't want this to sound all religious-like. People start thinking automatically in terms of their religion. Okay? Your religion ain't right. You've been lied to. Every one of you that believes in the bearded man in the sky has been lied to. That's not it. It's wrong. Which leads me into the deadly sin of lust. It's not a deadly sin. It's about balance. It's about balance. Balance is the key here. Okay? As an ex-order follower, as somebody who's seen a lot of shit in medical facilities even, I've got a large, eclectic variety of experiences to call upon to know what I fucking know. And I had some unhealthy coping mechanisms, and one of them was an online pornography problem. And it was an unconscious problem. I had some embarrassment in it. Okay? They tried to weaponize it against me in a certain way, and I'll lay it out right now why. And this isn't coming out of the closet, I'm not gay or anything. I had a fetish, and still actually do, to be honest with you, for strong chicks. So I got into female dominance porn. I got into female dominated porn, right? And I was embarrassed about it, actually. There's big tough guys into that. Well, if you're a well-balanced person, okay, I can tell you from my own personal experience, in the bedroom, what two adults do first off is their fucking business. First off. Secondly, I personally can be a dominator in the bedroom also. It's whatever's, like the great Shrek once said, people are like onions. We got layers. But I had got into female dominance porn, and you got to understand something. when I knew it was a problem because I was looking at too much of it, and that shadow work, okay, which is this picture behind me, bringing to light that which was in the shadows, and then balancing it out and quit trying to bury it. You're burying part of yourself when you do that. It's about integration and balancing that dark shadow. Okay, what I didn't realize was a problem, because I didn't know it was a bad habit, but I was hurting nobody but myself with it. And I'm going to explain how it feeds into this agenda and this population coal agenda in this podcast. Okay? So, I got into this, and I'm watching all this, and mind you, it had been years since I got back into online porn. I got back into it actually in 2020 while I was writing this book, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't every day or every week or even every month, but it was still, I looked at it more consciously, is I guess the best way I can put it. And this is where I was looking at it with a different eye, and I really started to see some of the satanic symbolisms involved in it. And I started to realize how this female-dominated porn was not healing. It was emasculating. There's a war on men and there's a war on testosterone, okay? Proper yin and yang, balance, genders in all things. I would try to talk to my Christian friends about that. Genders in all things. They would immediately say, oh, no, you can't talk about gender like that. Oh, no. The Bible says gay is wrong. I'm like, I'm not talking about gender. I'm talking about gender traits. And they just couldn't understand it. So I quit trying to explain it to them in that way. Okay, a well-balanced person is going to have both masculine and feminine traits. The masculine traits are one of action, which I'm taking right now. Linear thinking, problem solving. The feminine traits is love, true care, intuition, which God, I ignored for a long time. So, those are the gender traits that should be well balanced. Okay? Keep this in mind. Later on during a presentation, I'm going to have slides, and I'm going to paint a picture of the synchronicities that happened in my life with psychics, with pictures, with things that you're going to see. And I'm going to paint this picture and put it together for me. And it's going to, no doubt in my mind, help you to understand why I know there's a power greater than man on this planet. I don't know what it is yet. God with a capital G, some extraterrestrial beings or interdimensional beings that are just on our side. I don't know what it is. And I'm not going to try to figure out what it is before I tell what I know. So it's like, hey, tell what you know, aggregate as you go. Tell what you know and aggregate more as you go. So all I can tell you, what I don't know the answers to, I will find out. But this, and I've talked about all this before in past podcasts. I'm just sticking on this now. Okay, when I first came out, I came out and I talked about it. I threw the book out there and I talked about it was a porn addiction and blah, blah, blah. And I really didn't get the reception and reaction I wanted. There's no shock value in that today anymore. There just isn't. Okay? With everything that we got going on in the world, go figure. There's no shock value to it. So what I want to just talk about is something didn't want me watching it. And I talk about this in the book because every time I did, I would experience certain synchronistic events. Every time I exercised self-control, which is like a muscle, I would, experience other synchronistic events. I talk about those events in the book, but the biggest thing is that type of problem that I felt like I had, which I don't feel like it's a problem anymore, goes back, like any kink is going to end up going back to your childhood. Any kink, any fetish, anything you have is going to go back to your childhood in some way, shape, or form. And if you read my book, Rise from Darkness, you'll see I had a very abusive childhood. I was a sexually, touched once, assaulted, you could just say, by an adult, a person in a position of trust, okay? And I'm very clear on what it was and what it wasn't in the book. There was no penetration or anything like that. I'm very clear on what it was. It was an inappropriate touching and some other stuff. But you don't have to be a psychologist or psychiatry or any type of trained person to read the book and figure out, oh yeah, he's got a female dominance problem. I had to figure this shit out myself. And it's not even a fucking problem. The problem is the imbalance and the unhealing that the unholy feminine is doing with it. That's the fucking problem. Okay? It isn't It isn't the kink itself. The kink is fine. Any fucking kink you have is okay, as long as you're not victimizing anybody. It's real simple. So I had to, like, for myself, I had to really delve in and do some shadow work. Where'd this come from? First off, where'd it come from? And, that takes real honesty. I couldn't trust psych people around here. They had already done me wrong. They were already working in cahoots with the government and had already fucking done me wrong, okay? I didn't trust them, and it's not because I'm nuts. It's because I've actually seen from the inside what the fuck these monsters will do to you. So I couldn't go to anybody. It was hard to talk to my wife about this. I probably mentioned this to her. It was hard to talk to anybody about it because these things are private and they can be kind of embarrassing, But when you put up against what we're facing in the world, and I got kids, I got all these things. I was embarrassed because I had kids, and I know it, objectifies women especially. But this was still objectifying for people for me watching it. But it's the greater agenda that I want to talk about with that because it's another sprocket in their toolbox. Okay, it's another thing that they're using to create separation, to keep us stuck in the fucking metaverse. All right, so I'm looking at this, and I had to figure out for myself. Well, first off, it's not a problem. That's the first thing I had to come to. I had to integrate it. This isn't a big deal. That's the first thing I really had to do. The second thing that I had to do was, well, where does it originate from? Because that's part of the understanding. What are the causal factors of it? And like I was getting at earlier, if you know anything about any type of psychology, I read my book, I needed a stronger mother when I was a kid. Like, I really needed a stronger mother as a child. And I think that's probably where this came from. And I still fucking have it. I love strong women, okay? I can be very submissive in the bedroom, or I can be very dominant depending on the need, like I said. Like the great Shrek said, people are like onions, we got layers. But it was weaponized against me. I let it be shameful. I understood it was an unconscious behavior that I had to bring to the light and really work on. But where do we get at where there was a sign that something greater than me didn't want me looking at it? That's the part I'm still trying to figure out and find out. And when I find out, I'll let everybody know. But in the meantime, I have a list of photos, synchronicities, things I'm going to turn into slides, pictures, that will paint a very, very intricate picture of what I experienced. And I'm going to say supernatural phenomenon that I experienced because it's not human. It's going to be coming out in my next book. I'm going to be working on it diligently. But if you're some solipsist, you're some atheist, you're wrong. That's all I'm going to say. With what I've experienced, you're wrong. I'm not sure what it is that was trying to keep me from watching it. But let's get down to what it actually is now, real quick. I'm kind of just going on and on here because these are notes. I'm not sure if I'll make this part of a podcast itself since it's just right off the cuff. But let's get down to what it really is. They want separation, okay? They, of course, want heterosexual separation because even a one-night stand could result in an unwanted child, God forbid. But they want all separation. Homosexual doesn't matter. They don't want men getting together and communicating. They don't want women getting together and communicating. They don't want none of that. They want to create separation, keep us trapped in the metaverse. They don't want us seeing each other. They want us to keep our mouths shut. That's where this cult and the cult masks come from. I got a wide eclectic variety of experiences between the military and government work on several different levels as an ex-order follower. Who had unhealthy coping mechanisms. I've called it an addiction in the past. I won't even call it an addiction because I'll go look at it again right now if I fucking want. I'm not hurting nobody. But I don't want to. Here's the thing. Once I realized there's no connection in this, once I started seeing the satanic things that were involved in what I was now looking at, as compared to like 2012, 2013, it became abundantly clear to me that this is just another sprocket in the wheel, another spoke in the wheel of evil, to help keep us separated, keep us mind controlled behind our smart devices, looking at porn, looking really at anything. But it's just another population control spoke in a wheel of evil, where with the female-dominated related porn in particular that I say is not healing, it is completely emasculating to men. There's a war on testosterone. Okay? And what you're going to end up with is a country full of men who can't fucking fight. Well, I'm an onion. I got layers. Trust me, I can fight. I don't mind being submissive to the right woman in the bedroom, but I can be dominant also. That's how all balanced people should actually fucking be. And people, I never thought that I was going to turn into the grown-up male version of Dr. Ruth talking about sex. But man, the first thing the government tries to do is shame you over sex, or shame you over the porn you're looking at, or in my case, one of the things they did was also try to get me to cheat on my wife so they could get pictures of that. They use sex as a fucking weapon instead of the spiritual, awesome, energy that sex actually is. Now, when you're doing it too much, if you're masturbating too much, or doing other things too much, you could be wasting creative energy. But when you have a human connection with somebody, even if it's a one-night stand, there's an energetic connection. Now, the dangers, of course, are sexually transmitted diseases and all that, but safety, we know what safe sex is. We're trained since we were a kid in it. You're better off getting out there with people, connect with people. I don't care what your sexual preferences are. As long as you're not into children, as long as you are with consenting adults, it don't fucking matter. Okay? So it's, for some reason, it is an embarrassing issue for a lot of people to talk about, and it was an embarrassing issue for me. And I can do all this. Actually, I don't know. This is actually turning out to be good stuff. I've already been going, how long? I've already been going almost 20 minutes on here. I might do like a little note beforehand and then a little note afterhand and make this the main body of, of the podcast. It'll be voice only, I guess. I don't know. But I am putting together a presentation and I'm going to call the Sacred Gift of Shame. Because, see, in the right manner, on the light side of it, shame tells us what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. On the darker shadow end of it, shame is weaponized against us, like it has been throughout this entire pandemic. Part of the human condition is one of internalized toxic shame, just like part of the human condition is obviously the abject slavery of mankind, of all humanity since the beginning of time. So, we got to look at what it actually is. We really got to look at what it actually is. If anybody wants to sit down and have a talk with me in private, that's part of the freedom community who I know. I'm not talking to anyone I don't know. Or, after that type of a talk, do an actual in-depth interview afterwards. I'll be happy to do it anywhere. Okay? Fuck, if I ended up going mainstream and I was on Dr. Phil, I'll warn Dr. Phil ahead of time. I'll have him boot off fucking stage if he comes at me and tries to ambush me. Okay? Trust me. And I'll do it with humor, but trust me. There's nothing to be ashamed of with your sexuality, folks. And that was a big problem that I had. I let the weaponization of shame be used against me. It was a psyop. I know what psyops are. Just understand what that is. There's nothing wrong with viewing porn, but just understand what's going on now with what I was viewing. On the one hand, it's gotten big. I think dominance related videos has actually gotten big. There's a lot of people out there needing that type of healing. There's always some type of power dynamic going on in sex. So it's healing for both people or everybody involved if it's done the right way. It's creative, it's spiritual, you feel great, okay? I think there's a lot of self-loathing in that relapse cycle when you go back and look at porn, but when you can actually integrate it, it's not bad. Just understand what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a whole bunch of free porn. And for what reasons? To keep you occupied, to keep you busy, to keep you stuck online looking at your phones, to keep you apathetic, to keep you indifferent to what's going on in the world around you. And then there's this huge push with female-dominated porn to make men into fucking women. I'm going to tell you guys something else. Everyone calls me conspiracy theory, right? I think when you put that real perverted, this is on an energetic spiritual level, you put a lot of like big perverted energy out there. I think the Satanists, I think these fucking things, they feed off that too. I think it's the least of what they feed off of, but they feed off of it. That's why they're putting it all online. And they also want you to just be on your smart device and not be out meeting people. On the one end. On the other end, that female-dominated stuff is to totally emasculate you as a man. And then this country's not going to have no one left to fucking fight. Okay? And that's needed. The fall of every great civilization comes the same way. They feminize the men, they change the currency, and they get the population fighting with one another, so they do the fighting for them. It's the same thing. It's what happened to Greece, it's what happened to Rome. It's the same thing, and it's happening in this country too. So I always want to talk about and ask the bigger questions, but you have to see, I won't even use, this is a conspiracy theorist in me, I don't even want to use male hygiene products anymore. I really think like they're putting some type of, and this is just a conspiracy theory, folks, it's a theory, it's not an actual conspiracy, but I'm almost afraid with the totality of everything else I've seen and know, that they're putting, and I'm sorry if there's I'm in my empty kitchen at my new house, the downstairs part anyway. I'm afraid that they're actually putting, estrogen and shit in male hygiene products. By contrast, they're probably putting testosterone in female hygiene products. We really got to use some neutral products, folks, and get some type of homeostasis in our body that's healthy, with fresh alkaline water, with fresh vegetables and food, staying away from this fake-ass meat that they're putting a bunch of estrogen in, okay? There's a war on testosterone, and they want to either dumb the men down and not have any holistic intelligence, no gender balance, no female intuition. They want that half dumbed down, and they want the other half to be feminized to the point where they won't lift a fucking finger. Listen, life is about balance. Balance is the key. Okay? Without balance, you're screwed. Not in the good way. So this was my message to what I had going on. And it's one of the main messages in my book, Rise from Darkness, Who Are They? Where I talk about a wide variety of things on what's going on in the world now, and what my own experiences were. And yes, they were supernatural. I will sit there and argue with anyone till I'm blue in the face, and I will point out the reasons why I know this. Again, keep in mind, at a presentation that I'm planning on doing, I'm going to be putting the slides together to prove it. Other people's writing, other people's art, other people's things, different synchronicities, animal spirit guides, different pictures, all of it's going to come together. And I know it will paint a picture that will leave you not doubting what I experienced and why I came to the conclusions that I came to. Okay? I have no doubt that you will probably come to those same conclusions yourself. None of us are right on creation, on who exactly God is. Nobody knows 100% for sure, but all I know and all any good spiritual person knows is there is something greater than man. It would be really foolhardy for us to think that there isn't. And I talk about that in my chapter. I have one chapter in the book where I talk about my spiritual awakening. I talk about natural law. I give credit for what I learned to who credit. I put links in there that are still going to work. Website's still up. The information's still out there. I do all that with the hopes that if this goes mainstream, then the information of natural law, which is what the difference between right and wrong is, okay? Objectively, what is right and what is wrong, objectively. Doesn't matter how you get to that conclusion right now, because there's a larger enemy at the gate. What matters right now, okay, is you are at that conclusion. So if you believe in freedom, again, you're a good guy. I don't care how you arrived at your conclusions of what freedom actually is. You're a good guy if you want freedom and you believe in the non-aggression principle and not using the threat and coercion and the threat of violence, okay? If you believe in those things, doesn't matter what you consider yourself, I will just call you, you can be an abolishist, or you can be a de facto anarchist, whatever you want to refer to yourself as, doesn't matter. You're one of the good guys if you believe that stuff. If you're one of the people, one of the very few people in this world that is trying to propagate slavery, you're straight out fucking evil. And if you're mind controlled supporting that evil, you need to come out of your mind control. You're who we're trying to reach. If you're just going along and you're hoping for the best, but you know something bad's happening, you're not talking, you are also complicit in that evil. So all of you that I just said, you're the bad guys. So for us good guys out there, what we need to realize is hey, we're all at the same conclusion. While there's a larger enemy at the gate, let's unite. Let's unite. That's what I mean by getting together. I don't mean let's form friends and have parties and shit, okay? I believe in the energy of real life communication, real life human interaction between people, real life auric field energy. Not always constantly being online. Online is important. This is where the battle is actually at. It is actually here. But the battle is going to be coming at us from a lot of different angles, not just online. It's going to be coming from the 3D verse also. Okay, the 3D domain. It's going to be coming from all angles. They're wanting to defeat us before they can. So this is kind of my story. It's a story that I write in Rise from Darkness. I'm a little more in depth in the book. I've got a presentation I'm going to be doing. It's going to be titled The Sacred Gift of Shame, because shame tells us what we shouldn't be doing. And it also tells us and teaches us what the weaponization of internalized toxic shame looks like. Okay? And I had to rise from that darkness to understand a lot of things. I'm still learning, but I'm not gonna wait till I think I know everything before I start talking. What's going on in the world is evil. We need to unite. Okay? Like I said in one of my earlier podcasts, I've talked about this stuff in all my podcasts before. I'm worthy again, motherfuckers. I remember who I am. I've returned to who I was. So, bring it. And I probably am going to make this just a voice, podcast. So, with all sincerity and love, this wasn't going to be a podcast. This is the second time I've done this. I'm going to do a before note and maybe an after note to make it into an official podcast. But, until I do my next podcast or until I do my next talk, I just really want to say, man, stay safe, stay healthy, keep exercising, make as much human connection as you can. Real human connection. I don't care how you make it. Fuck going to porn sites. Right now, they're wanting to keep you locked in your fucking phone. Okay? I've seen enough Satanism. I've seen enough shit. I know what the fuck they're doing with it. There's nothing wrong with porn. Okay? I want to make that clear. And maybe me and my wife or me and whoever will go look at it again someday. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with ethical porn. I'm just saying right now it's being used as a distractionary device, and it's being used very widely and from what I can see, to push a narrative or to push some type of feminine dominance in it that isn't healing. It's not healing. It's emasculating, man. So, with that being said, I just want to, tell everybody love you, and hopefully we can get this world unfucked together, and peace out till next time. Thank you. Stay safe.